Wow. 1,000 Americans. 1,000 Americans were giving the US citizenship test. 38% failed. 38%. Newsweek story, Andrew Romano. They're the sort of scores that drive high school history teachers to drink. When Newsweek recently asked 1,000 U.S. citizens to take America's official citizenship test, 29% couldn't name the vice president. 73% couldn't correctly say why we fought the Cold War. For crying out loud, this is recent history. 44% were unable to define the Bill of Rights, and 6% couldn't even circle Independence Day on a calendar. Don't get us wrong, civic ignorance is nothing new. For as long as they've existed, Americans have been misunderstanding checks and balances and misidentifying their senators, and they've been lamenting the philistinism of their peers ever since pollsters started publishing these dispiriting surveys back in Harry Truman's day. You know, I'm sorry. I really am. I mentioned this earlier on in the program. I mentioned this right after Rose came on the show. Rose Ferlita running for mayor, Tampa. I cannot stand this rah-rah, go out and vote nonsense. There was a great South Park episode about this. And they brought Puff Daddy in it. He had his vote or die campaign, which meant what? You know, it's better off if you don't know, if you don't have a clue. You know, here in this country, I mean, that's really all I really ask, okay? I know I'm not going to get the things that I want. I know I am not going to get the things that I want. And some of those things are real simple. If you live off of any public assistance whatsoever, then I'm sorry, while you're on public assistance, while you're living off your fellow taxpayers, you shouldn't be allowed to vote. You shouldn't be allowed to. If you're on welfare, if you're on food stamps, or if you're on any of these things, if you're living off the benevolence of your fellow taxpayers, wow, you're on that. You know, we're okay. We're a nice society. We're a society that takes care of one another. That's fine. But you shouldn't have a say in how the country's being run. At that point in time, you're back on your feet. You're not living off public assistance. You don't live in Section 8 housing or any of that stuff. Well, then you know what? Well, then you know what? You can go back and you can vote now. Unless, of course, you are a military veteran where that can never be taken away from you. The other one is almost like a confirmation process. As a Catholic, when I forget what age it was, 13, 14 years old, it's almost like being baptized once again. You have to decide, and you have to go up, and you have to say, yes, I want to do this. I want to be a Catholic once again. You got to take all sorts of classes, and you know what? That's your confirmation process. Why not have a confirmation process for citizenship? I mean, for crying out loud, we have government schools. Why shouldn't every single high school student here in this country be able to pass a citizenship test? And then, you know what? Take the oath. Why not? Reconfirm yourself. This is the country that you want to live in? This is the country that you want to be a part of? You can reconfirm it. I see no problem with any of these ideas. But, I mean, for crying out loud. I mean, seriously? 29% don't even know who the vice president is? And for crying out loud, it's not like Joe Biden is a quiet, behind-the-scene president. I mean, the guy can't stop but putting his foot in his mouth every 2 seconds. Anyway, let's go to, oh boy, Brian in New Tampa has some suggestions for some citizenship test questions. Brian, welcome to the show.
I'll get to that in a second, but I mean, I would actually think that people that are on the welfare probably should, I wouldn't say get twice the vote. They certainly should have clear access to vote. I mean, and I'll tell you why, because you vote for what? You're voting for government leaders, government policy, and so forth. Well, who better connected to the government than people that are living off it? So they have
better
a more
connected to
vested
they're not
interest in how
connected to the government. They're connected to
performs.
living off their fellow taxpayers.
Right, because it's just
I mean,
temporary.
Brian, let me kind of put this into maybe, a household type of a situation. I have 3 kids that I adore. Okay, 3 children. They do not contribute towards our household food bill. They do not contribute towards the mortgage. They don't contribute to paying for gas. One is 8, one is 6, one is 5. They also do not get to decide when they go to bed.
So you're a tyrant.
Yep, I am. In my household, yes, I'm a tyrant.
Okay, we've established
You're right.
that.
It's not a democracy. It's not a democracy in my household. It's not. My wife's in charge. I'm second in command.
Okay, well,
she's the CEO. I'm the CFO. It's just how it works. I'm sorry, the kids don't decide at that time.
That's not that unusual.
What's
no,
that?
I just think I say that's not unusual. I think people on the welfare, as I say, they really should have a clear access to it. One of the things I think that we need to establish in this country on days like today is there should be some type of government. I'm not saying a government vehicle, but there should be some kind of government assistance to get people to the polls that maybe can't get there on their own. Maybe their car's not running. Or
they do that all the time. The Democratic National Committee will do. Hey, those you know those buses that were underwater during Katrina in New Orleans? Those very same buses were used to go into the inner cities and to take people. The Democrats took these people, fed them, gave them food, all sorts of stuff, and then took them to the polls and kind of nudged them in the direction of who to vote for. They worked. They worked on election day, but they couldn't. It didn't work for some reason to get people out when a big hurricane was barreling down.
Well, that's showing that you care for citizens. Hey, as far as that citizenship test question, those questions, I mean, come on. One's 4th of July. Who's vice president? I mean, I guess when you look at those questions, you can tell they're written by people that have certainly a different viewpoint of America than the America I live in. I mean, there's certain questions they should ask about some of the things that have happened in this country that maybe they try to sweep under the rug. For instance, why don't they ask, when's Juneteenth? What's Juneteenth? What's that about? Why don't they ask that question?
What's what?
Why don't they ask about the Civil Rights Act when that went into effect?
Oh, those are questions. Those are questions that Civil Rights Act. Those are questions that'll be on there. You don't think that those are things that are included as well? Absolutely.
How about a question of which country in the Western world imprisons more people per capita than any other? Think that's on there? Which country?
You think that is something that qualifies? Do you think that is something that's stuff that's all good knowledge to have and understanding, about this country? But you think that is something you should have on a citizenship test? That's more important than Independence Day.
It's the America we live in, not the America that these people wrote these questions.
No. Wait a second. It's important to know where you've come from and understand how the country works.
Right.
And understand checks and balances and understand how this country operates. That's not important?
It's not important that we have more people in prison for misdemeanor drugs? I mean, those are the kind of questions we should. I'll tell you what, when I heard you reading that list, I said to myself, I can name that author. After about the second question, I said, I can name that author of those questions. There's one guy writing those questions. You know who it is? It's
the man.
Absolutely, it's the man.
Yeah, that's right. It's the man. I forgot about him. He's writing. The man is writing the citizenship test. 866.